Hello guys, and welcome to my video comparison of the Sony WH-1000Xm2 on the left and the Bose & Wilkins PX on the right. First category is going to be the price, where the Bose & Wilkins PX is a bit more costly than the Sony's. The Bose & Wilkins retails for $399, while the Sony's retails for $349. Now this is for US currency and at this time of the comparison review. In terms of design, I personally love the way both of these headphones look. The Sony's have a very nice, streamlined, minimalistic, very premium aesthetic that I really love. Whereas the Bose & Wilkins has a more elegant, sophisticated, and sort of like a status symbol appearance, where these just scream luxury. So overall, I really love wearing both headphones. The Sonys, however, do have a larger profile on the head, so they do stick out quite a bit. But thankfully, because they're so well designed, it doesn't really negate that overall asset in terms of what they have to offer in aesthetics. Next category is going to be the build quality, whereas the Bose & Wilkins does take the edge here. These are built with very fine materials. The portion here that are blue is a ballistic nylon, which is very durable. The outer air capsule is aluminum. The logo stitching is metal. The very nicely designed arms that attach to the back of the capsule is a metal. The exposed wiring here is a Kevlar braided material. The underpad of the headband is real leather. The removable ear cups, which detach very seamlessly with a magnetic bond, is real leather as well. As you can see, the bottom portion here, which is not really even seen, is still just well crafted. These are just really nicely put together headphones. The Sony's, on the other hand, nicely put together as well. It's just that the materials chosen are not as good as the Bose & Wilkins. The outer capsule here, while looking really nice, is a synthetic leather finish. The portion here where the arms attached to the capsule is plastic. This portion here is plastic. The headband material is synthetic leather. The removable ear pads, which isn't as easily removable as the Bose & Wilkins, is a synthetic leather finish. However, the top portion of the headband is a metal material. Extension part is metal as well. The folding mechanism here is reinforced with metal. So thankfully, because these headphones will undergo a lot of movements in those, those areas, Sony chose to use the appropriate material to withstand everyday wear and tear. However, these do have an issue where the headbands would crack over time, especially the MDR1000X. Personally, I had the MDR1000X for nearly a year, never had that issue, but I just want to put that out there. It's a known issue of people complaining about the inner portion of the headbands cracking with the Sonys. Next category is going to be the comfort. The Sonys are more comfortable to my ears. The Bose & Wilkins are decently comfortable, and it's a bummer because it's a mixture of the fact that these are heavier headphones because of the more hefty materials. This basically creates a sort of like a sore spot on the top of my head after about an hour or so of listening. But the main gripe here is the fact that these ear pads are quite stiff, and they haven't gotten any softer over time. So what happens is, thankfully, the inner portion of the ear opening is rather roomy, so your ears get in there and your ears are not touched at all by the headphone. It's just that the part where the ear pads meet the outer portion of your ears, it's quite stiff, so it has that clamping pressure to also go along with that just constantly reminds you that, hey, I'm on your head. And it doesn't really give you that sense of relaxation that you really look for with the headphone, that sense of not wearing anything at all. And it does become unbearable after about an hour and a half to 2 hours, where I just have to take these off to give my head and my ears a breather from the overall pain that these build up from the clamping pressure along with the weight of the headphone. Another problem that I have with these Bose & Wilkins, not sure if it's also an issue with other people, it's also because of the weight, but when I'm trying to say put my head on my seat when I'm on the bus going from or going to work or home, what happens is the left ear cup primarily will begin to sort of like fall back this way, and this will break the seal and allow the active noise cancellation's effectiveness to just go completely out the window. All the ambient sounds from the bus engine and everyone around me just starts to seep into the music, and I have to then readjust the headphones back on my head and then pretty much make sure they're nicely parallel to my the sides of my head. And it really just wakes you up and removes you from being able to relax efficiently and effectively when wearing this headphone. The Sonys, on the other hand, I do not have this problem at all. The only problems that I have with the Sonys is that due to the fact that the inner portion of the ear pads and where your ear goes into, it's rather snug, so it does warm your ears up rather quickly. Within about 30 minutes or so, your ears are going to get warm. Thankfully, the weather is getting colder, so this may just be a benefit in the long run if you do live in cold climates or if you're approaching the winter season. The headband here is well padded, and the weight of this headphone is significantly less than the Bose and Wilkins, so it doesn't really create that hot point at the top of my head as easily. So the nod for me in comfort goes to the Sonys over the Bose and Wilkins. Next up, we have features. The Bose and Wilkins is pretty decent in terms of what it allows. It's essentially Bose and Wilkins' first iteration and jump into the whole smart headphone scene. These have a proximity sensor in each ear cup that detects whether or not you have the headphone on. When you take the headphone off your ears, the proximity sensor detects that there's no obstruction in the way because your head is no longer there. It'll then pause the music, and after a certain amount of time, it will put the headphone into a deep standby, consuming little to no battery. Then when you pick the headphone back up, put it on your head, it will detect that your head is now there, turn the headphone back on, reconnect back to your previous Bluetooth source, and start playing the music. This is a very, very cool feature when on paper. However, for me, it just doesn't work that well at all, to the point where I just turn the whole feature off. So basically what happens is I will have the headphones on and I can literally yawn or just turn my head left to right, and it'll trigger the sensors into thinking that the headphone is no longer on my head, and it'll pause the music. And I've had times where I'm listening to the music because the music wasn't on, and I would hit the play pause button to turn the music back on to play, not knowing that the sensors still think that my head is no longer there, and then eventually I could listen to the music playing, and the headphone would just shut off because the sensor actually thought that my head was no longer there. And even though the music was still playing, the countdown timer to put the headphone into a deep sleep was actually going. So I just turned the whole feature off. It didn't matter how much I put the sensitivity to or how low I put sensitivity to. It just never really worked for me. And hopefully after a firmware upgrade, where hopefully this is a software based issue and not hardware, if they can upgrade this with the firmware, then I would definitely use this feature. But for the time being, the only feature that I find useful with this is the fact that you can adjust the level of sensitivity with the ambient aware, where the microphones in the headphone can pick up your surroundings and beam in voices or beam in your environmental noises, so you can be able to have that sense of awareness when you listen to music. Now, in terms of features, the Sony easily takes the cake here in this comparison. The Sony has a touch panel sensor, which I find a little bit more intuitive and easier to use than controlling your headphones with buttons. It also has this quick attention mode where you put your right hand over the right ear cup and you cover it. And this will basically make the headphone reduce the volume of whatever you have playing to a bare minimum, and then kick the microphones into a reverse state where it picks up all of your surroundings. So now you can be able to hold that conversation with someone who may just need to quickly get your attention. You can now hear that announcement if you're in a train or a bus station. It's a very, very useful feature that I find myself using nearly every day. Another cool thing that this has is the ability to have your app monitor your movement. So if you're sitting down, if you're running, if you're walking, or if you're on a bus or a train or in a car, the headphone will adjust the active noise cancellation to those specific scenarios. It also has an optimizer where the headphone will scan your head, monitor your wearing style, and with this new WH-1000Xm2, it also introduces a pressure sensor. So if you're 30,000 feet in the sky, it'll bring the altitude pressure into consideration. So in the end, you get the best possible noise cancellation and sound that this headphone has to offer for your listening pleasure. In terms of the Bluetooth codecs, this has everything covered. You have aptX, aptX HD, AAC, SBC, and Sony's proprietary LDAC. So basically, it doesn't matter if you have an iOS device or an Android device, you're going to be covered in getting the best possible Bluetooth codec for your listening pleasure. Overall, these are just packed to the brim with features. I probably missed some because they have so much features, but just overall, these take the cake in terms of features over the Bose and Wilkins. The next category is going to be audio. And the first portion of the audio category is going to be the call quality. And the Bose and Wilkins, for me, are superior to the Sonys in terms of the microphone quality during calls. The Sonys have this tendency to just pick up everything around you and not pick up your voice that well. I had the same issue with the MDR-1000X, and I really hope that Sony fixed it, but the microphone in these headphones are just mediocre. They only work for me if the environment is quiet or silent. It's just as soon as sounds start to erupt in the background, it's just that people begin to complain that they can't hear me, or they complain that they're hearing more of what's around me as opposed to what I'm saying. The Bose and Wilkins PX, on the other hand, does not suffer from this issue, thankfully. The microphone built into this headphone is really good and is great at blocking out your background noises while keeping your voice clear and easy for the other person on the line to hear. Call quality in terms of you hearing what's on the other line is great with both headphones. They both have noise canceling, so you can easily hear what the other person's saying to you. But in terms of the microphone and it picking up your voice to then distribute to that person, the Sonys are mediocre and the Bose and Wilkins are great. Now moving over to the audio quality reproduction of both headphones when listening to music. Both these headphones sound above average, and that's easy. This sounds great. This sounds excellent. Now, the reason why I give this an excellent rating and basically right off the bat just say that these are better in terms of overall sound quality is because these have a very spacious soundstage, a very liquid, clean and clear mid-range presentation, and a very nice, tight, robust, linear bass presentation. The treble on these is the culprit. It's just not present enough. I prefer the Sony's treble. I think the Sony sound a little bit more clear overall because of the fact that the treble on these are more balanced with the rest of the frequency spectrum. But if you really listen, you can tell that these are a clearer sounding headphone. It's not a significant difference. It's a very tiny difference between the two. You can't go wrong with any of these headphones here in terms of overall sound quality, but I do have to say that these sound a bit better. And it really just boils down to how effortless the Bose and Wilkins sound in comparison to the Sonys. Now, there's a big tidbit here, and it's with the active noise cancellation. Now, performance-wise, active noise cancellation is way ahead with the Sonys. These block out a significant amount of sound. Feels like you're in your own little acoustic chamber when you put these on and you hear the lady in the headphones say, noise canceling. Boom, it's like, whoa, what just happened? I'm in another world. With these, they do block out a good amount of sound. They have 3 levels in their application. You have office, city, and plain. I put these on the office mode because it retains the majority or pretty much nearly, I think, all of it, because it's really a very indiscernible difference between having the office active noise cancellation on this as opposed to no active noise cancellation. But when you put it on the city or the plain mode, the sound on these is inferior to the Sonys. It's inferior because basically it just compresses the sound. The bass gets boosted, the treble gets a little bit more strident. It's still a clean sound. You can still hear details in the sound, but it just sounds dynamically constrained when you put this on the maximum level of active noise canceling or even the medium level of active noise canceling. And what really hurts is with the maximum level of noise canceling on these, it still doesn't even match the maximum noise canceling on the Sonys. So the Sonys on their maximum level of noise canceling is just right under the Bose and Wilkins PX sound when it has its minimum level of noise canceling or no noise canceling at all. So in an overall, I would kind of put this at a draw because the Bose and Wilkins has the potential to sound better than the Sony WH-1000Xm2. The PX has that potential to sound better. But you have to sacrifice active noise cancellation to achieve this level of sound quality. However, when I have it on the lowest level of the lowest level of active noise canceling on the Bose and Wilkins PX, I feel that it blocks out a decent amount of noise for me able to commute and walk through the city without having anything disrupt my music. But I can definitely hear a difference with how much sound is blocked away when I have the Sonys on. So I can still use these in the city with very low, with the lowest active noise cancellation mode selected, and still be quite fine. So I can still get better sound than the Sonys in all environments, thankfully, with the Bose and Wilkins PX. But it's just the fact that I can only use it on its lowest active noise cancellation setting, whereas with the Sonys, still manage to have quite a great sound with this level of active noise cancellation. Now, this is just to address the previous comparison video that I had put up with the Sonys versus the Bose QC35-2s. I got a lot of flack saying that the Bose shouldn't be superior to the Sonys in terms of the sound, and that the Sonys are supposed to be superior. Personally, I prefer the Sony sound, but I'm going to be honest here and say that the Bose does sound clearer. It does sound cleaner. It does sound more neutral. But the Sonys have a sound that I prefer. It has a more warmer, natural sound. It has a more tighter bass than the Bose, and I just prefer the overall sound signature, especially at lower volume listening, with the Sonys over the Bose. But I do see where the Bose is superior in terms of the sound quality. It's an objective statement that the Bose is superior. Subjectively, someone can say that the Apple AirPods is superior to both of these headphones. At the end of the day, it's just your preference. So I personally love both of these headphones. In terms of sound, the Bose and Wilkins PX sounds better to me. The Sonys still sound great, but these have less active noise canceling while having to achieve this level of sound, while the Sonys have an insane amount of noise cancellation to achieve sound that's just slightly under. So it's a draw to me in terms of the overall sound, and there's really no winner here because it can really depend on the usage scenario of which headphone you're going to choose. So in conclusion here, these are both probably the top headphones that I would recommend. If you need strictly the best sound, you can look no further than the Bose and Wilkins PX. If you need the best overall package in terms of just nailing every single criteria with excellence, the Sonys are your go-to headphones. I rank these above the Bose QC35s because while the Bose does sound objectively superior, I prefer the sound of the Sonys. The Sony has way more features and has more battery life. It's not much of a comparison once you've gotten past that point there. And a quick rundown of the battery: Bose and Wilkins PX has up to 22 hours with ANC and everything else enabled. Sony has up to 30 hours with ANC and everything else enabled. So these are great headphones for the price. These are also great headphones for the price, but they serve a different demographic, and it really boils down to what your usage case scenario is. So if there's anything in this video comparison that I've left out or haven't covered, feel free to ask me in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Thanks for watching.